I want to take you back to August of 2018. I had just graduated high school. I was going to BCIT as an 18-year-old first-year student into radio broadcasting, and like a lot of Canucks fans also on the West Coast, I was super excited for the future. The Canucks had just drafted Quinn Hughes, and you had yourselves the prep going on for the 2019 NHL Draft, which would be going on about, 10 months after this time frame we're talking about? In August of 2018, we had ourselves the Hlinka Gretzky tournament in Edmonton. And in this showcase, we had ourselves a few names that absolutely stood off the board above the rest and dominated the competition. You can see right here that the top 5 point producers of this tournament were Vasili Podkolzin of Team Russia, Alexis Lafreniere of Team Canada, Ryan Suzuki, not Nick, of Canada, Lucas Raymond of Sweden, and then you have Yaroslav Likachev of Team Russia. There are a few other names that are pretty notable in NHL systems today as well, but the number 1 point guy of the entire tournament, tied with Alexis Lafreniere, was Vasili Podkolzin. In fact, his tournament was so good that when Craig Button was brought onto the TSN show to talk about the 2019 draft and label his top 5 prospects, sure, he had Jack Hughes as a number 1 guy, he had Capo Kakko at number 4, he had Dylan Strome at number 2 of all people, but in the 5th overall spot, Craig Button put Vasili Podkolzin as one of the top prospects in the draft. And for good reason too, as we highlighted. He tied Lafreniere for points in that tournament. And a lot of people would go out there and highlight what it is that Podkolzin did here in this very limited sample of 5 games as to the best case scenario for Podkolzin and his overall ceiling. He could skate, he could forecheck, he was an absolute hound, a bulldog on the play, and he would always give his opponents an extraordinarily difficult time. He was a forechecking machine, and when he had the puck, he could bulldoze his way to the front of the net, dangle guys if he needed to, snipe pucks if he needed to. He is a leader, he loves the game, he always wants to win. Craig Button on the broadcast said that Vasili Podkolzin had some of the same qualities that Pavel Datsyuk had. And so for me, 18 years old, doing the dishes, watching this show on my smartphone in August of 2018, I was like, wow, this Podslovens kid is supposed to be pretty good. I wonder who's going to get him at the draft. Now, the next few months of his season were not great. Podkolzin bounced around a whole bunch of different teams, SKA St. Petersburg in the KHL, SKA Neva St. Petersburg in the VHL, SKA 1946 St. Petersburg in the MHL, Team Russia at the U18s, Team Russia at the World Juniors. He had no set path for his draft year. He just kind of bounced around everywhere. And as a result, you really didn't see the same production for Podkolzin in lower levels of play than you did in that Hlinka Gretzky tournament where he absolutely came alive and tied Lafreniere for the point lead. Nevertheless, he was still a first-round talent, albeit not 5th overall. He dropped all the way to 10th overall where the Vancouver Canucks selected him, and I remember being pretty surprised that they ended up taking him in the first place. I kind of thought, okay, Matt Boldy, NTDP, you had Peyton Krebs that the Canucks were interviewing as well, and you have Cole Caulfield, who is an absolute beautiful sniper that are all available in this selection. And the Canucks went with the Russian guy that slipped down draft boards because the rest of his league play was not as good as that small tournament that he had in August of the previous year. But hey, who cares what I think? I can't go out there and say that I dislike a player because he was drafted by the Canucks. Okay, no, I guess I can. Olli Juolevi, right? But still, he's a Canuck now, and I'm a Canucks fan, so automatically I'm a fan of this guy, and I want to see him do the best that he can. Long story short, the next 2 seasons were filled with the same patterns of Podkolzin going up and down and up and down. SKA St. Petersburg, Neva St. Petersburg, 1946 St. Petersburg, Team Russia all over the place, playing in the playoffs here and there. He didn't have any cohesion in his path until he made the Vancouver Canucks in 2021-2022. He stayed in Russia for as long as he did because he had a 2-year contract that he wanted to uphold, and he said to the media, hey, I'm not going to go out there and slap SKA St. Petersburg in the face, leaving their team after I signed a 2-year deal with them. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to serve it, which is honorable in its own right, but you could debate, hey, this development path for an 18, 19-year-old player isn't really the best because he's not getting any consistency in his gameplay. But either way, he made the Vancouver Canucks the next season, and he got off to a pretty interesting start. He scored his first goal in the NHL against the Philadelphia Flyers, and throughout the season you saw Travis Green put him on the fourth line. He was playing with Lamico, he was playing with a few other guys that were kind of just bouncing around here and there, and you could see Podkolzin start to get his feet under him and start to progress in his NHL career. Sure, was he dominating games like he did with the Hlinka Gretzky Team Russia back in August of 2018? No, he wasn't, but it wasn't really an expectation of him to be able to do that. It was just, okay, Podkolzin is going to take a while to really become an NHL star, if he ever becomes that, and when he does become that, he's going to be playing a style that he can't really master right off the bat anyway, because he's going to be a wrecking ball, bulldozer machine that could forecheck, that can score, that can show off his soft hands, etc. But man, I didn't think that a while would only be the rest of the year, and at the end of the season, he would be emerging as this newfound player that has stepped up in the absence of Brock Besser. Vasili Podkolzin, in his last 5 games played, has 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 total points. In his last 10 games played, he's got 7 points. He's playing out there with JT Miller. He's playing out there with Connor Garland. Podkolzin yesterday had 3 points in the span of 4 minutes. And it's been a pattern over the past few weeks, seeing Podkolzin almost say to himself, okay, remember those plays that you did at the Hlinka Gretzky 3-4 years ago? Remember when you took the puck in your own end and you would just storm down the wing? Maybe make a quick move to the middle and then shoot it top shelf on the goaltender, or try to dangle it by him as well? Yeah, let's try to do that here. Even in the games where Podkolzin did not score in the previous few weeks, we had started to see him crank up that motor and take control of shifts in ways that he hadn't been doing under Travis Green and when he was playing in the fourth line earlier this year. Vasili Podkolzin has been getting rewarded for his efforts too. You see him out there on the power play as the net front guy, getting rebounds and tip-ins in front, scoring those greasy goals because he's a big body that's got that stable frame to stay in the mix. You see him taking on those rushes and doing the things that he was doing a few years ago. You see him forechecking like crazy, like the madman he was in Russia. The goal by Connor Garland yesterday against the Arizona Coyotes was made because of the vicious Vasili Podkolzin forecheck. He came in, swooped down, defender thought he was getting some open space, but no, Podkolzin is right on his tail. Podkolzin with the steal, he sends it over to Garland, Garland shoots it and scores it. You could see the love that Podkolzin has in the game too. When Garland scores that goal, you see Garland's body language, he's just like, okay, yeah, it's 5-1, I scored a goal. But Podkolzin is like, yeah, you got it, I got an assist too, but yeah, you got it. And then you saw a few minutes later, JT Miller sets up Podkolzin on the beautiful one-timer. Podkolzin has been making plays as of late that a lot of people would be like, yeah, I kind of expect him to make these plays in his prime. I kind of expect Podkolzin to make these beautiful backhand no-look through the crease passes to Elias Pettersson that fools everybody when he's in his prime, not when he's 20 years old. And you gotta think, Podkolzin is signed till 2024 on his entry-level deal. This is his first season. Sure, he's only got 23 points. He's on pace for 25 points in a 79-game season. But the way Podkolzin has been playing recently, I mean, as we said, a point per game in his last 5 games, 7 points in his last 10. Let's do the math on that. 0.7 multiplied out by 82. Podkolzin is playing at a 57-point pace. Here are some comments from people in the media that really go over just how things have gone. Podkolzin had many ups and downs in the KHL and this season, but the one thing this kid has always displayed is the ability to bounce back from adversity through hard work and an incredible love for the game. Podkolzin is a great example of a young power forward who shows obvious signs of that in his game early on, versus the 6 years of people going, hey man, it takes a while for power forwards to put it together with Jake Virtanen. Maybe there's just some sort of a recency bias there because we're used to being able to say that about Virtanen that applied itself here to Podkolzin, where we would say, okay, maybe just give Podkolzin a few years, maybe wait till he's 24. Bertuzzi didn't break out until he was, in his mid-20s too, so we can wait a while. But no, we don't need to wait a while. Podkolzin is already here. This is what a pro scout said about Podkolzin during yesterday's game, or excuse me, it's yesterday for me, 2 days ago for you because I'm recording this video on the 15th. Podkolzin is starting to complete plays from his hard work, hanging on to pucks and just having softer hands. More with purpose. Playing with more skilled players really helps. Now his game is rising, and he's using all of his tools. Boudreau said the other day, I don't think people realize how strong Podkolzin is too. Here's another quote from Boudreau. It's mislabeled Horvat, but it's Boudreau talking about Podkolzin and his practice tendencies, that I have to kick him off every day in practice, and he's on 10 minutes before anyone else would even think about coming on. I told him not to come off the last 3 minutes of the game. He came off, and I sent him back on. So, Vasili Podkolzin has really taken over a solid role in the Canucks' top 6, and one can only wonder, where do we go from here, man? Where do we go with this? Let me know in the comments all your thoughts about Podkolzin and his development, where he is, where he was, where he's going to go. Let me know in the comments all your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.